Thank you for all the support with the Powerful Communication podcast. It's really enjoyable and such a gift to be able to chat to you. And thank you for subscribing and sharing the podcast and all the support. I want to talk a little bit today about briefing a spokesperson for media engagement. So if you've got a spokesperson and they're going on television or radio, or they're going to sit down with a newspaper journalist, we would always urge you to make sure that there's a proper brief takes place. Now that begins with the comms person, the head of comms, whoever it is, having a discussion with a journalist. So when the journalist approaches you and says, I'm doing a story about this, I'd like to speak to this particular member of your team, this CEO, this managing director, whoever it is, you should interrogate the journalist in a friendly way. You need to find out what they're looking for. Can you give me an idea of the questions you want to ask? How long is this going to be? Are you speaking to anyone else? Is this live or pre-recorded? What are you looking to do with this? And then say, when they tell you, then say, is there anything else? Is there anything else you might want to ask about? And you're doing that because you need to make sure that you're able to give the journalist the correct person. You need to make sure that they're prepared. And any decent journalist will accept and understand that. They'll not give you a list of questions. They're not going to give you control of the interview, but you do need to work together to make sure this thing is a success. So any decent journalist, they'll have dealt with many comms professionals before. They will understand that you need to take some information with them in order to make sure that the person at your end is going to give a good performance. So you gather some of that information, you decide that this is appropriate, you're going to take this offer of media engagement, you will give the interview, because of course you don't need to, and you don't need to do it to every outlet, okay? Then you're going to have a conversation with the person at your end. Now, I'll often talk about senior leaders, but of course it might not be. It could be anybody from your team, from any level of the business. Please don't think that all this only applies to the people right at the very top. There's some significant opportunities and benefits from having people from all corners of your business trained up, confident, and ready to talk about the work that they do. So you're going to talk to them and you're going to relay to them what the journalist has just told you. And then you need to do what we might call environment scanning. You need to look around and think, okay, what is going on? What have we got on our website? Oh, we've got the meeting of the last board minutes. Okay, well, that's publicly available. The journalist might look at that. They might see that. They might use that to build up some of their questions. Or if the journalist asks a question and they get an answer back that contradicts or that doesn't include something that was referenced in the board minutes, then the journalist might pick up on that. So you work with your person, your team, and you do this environment scanning. You talk about what else is going on, what's been in the news. Maybe there's a politician said something about your business or your sector. Maybe there's an office that's been closed. Maybe there's damage to something. Maybe there's been a product recall. Whatever it is, you need to know what else is going on. And sometimes it might not be related to your business or even your sector. When I worked in journalism, an organisation might be opening a new factory, and it might be the day that Scotland play or the day before Scotland play in the opening match of the World Cup. Well, if you're a Scottish business, the editor says to me, hey, go along and get a bit for the World Cup. Get something about the opening match. Ask them if they're giving the staff time off to watch the game, or are they going to show the game on TV at work? Any of those things. Now, if those questions come up, you don't need to answer them. You don't need to say, oh yes, we're very excited about this football match. You don't need to do anything. But if you know that there's a chance it might come up, you can be prepared for it. So fairly extensive environment scanning. What's going on in our business? What's going on in the community around us? What's going on in the world? Because all of that is fair game. It could all come up. And if you're prepared and you've thought about it and you've anticipated it, then if it does come up and you want to answer it, well, that's great. You know what you're going to say. If you don't want to answer it, then you can use some of the other techniques that we use in media training where we would try to steer the conversation somewhere slightly different. You might have heard me talk about the answer bridge content technique, or transitioning or pivoting, where we don't really talk about it, but we don't run away and say no comment either. We steer it back to our key messages and what we want to focus on. So you take the brief, you have the discussion, you do the environment scanning, you might even do a little bit of practice as well. If you're able to, that would be great, and you could record it on your phone and play it back. But you have to do all of that, and here's the big but that a lot of people miss, you've got to do all that without overwhelming your senior manager, whoever it is that's about to give this interview. What I see a lot of is members of comms team sending links and documents and a huge amount of information electronically, so not sitting down and talking, just banging it all through. Hey, there's your brief. Here's your pack before the interview. And because the comms person's well-meaning, and God, the last thing we would want to be accused of is being lazy or being slapdash, there's a tendency to over-deliver. We give far too much. And it's really challenging for our soon-to-be spokesperson because they don't have time to go through it all. There's too much stuff. They don't get the important bits. They can't prioritise the information. They'd already been doing some thinking themselves about what they want to say. Now they've got all this other stuff. They might not understand the world of comms all that well. So they think, oh God, I've got to say this. I've got to get this in. And now you've got this poor communication between comms professional and business leader, and we're actually all feeling really bad about it. And what often happens is the interview takes place and the business comes away and they feel, I never really said the things I wanted to say. And that happens a lot. Thank God that's over. Yeah, it was okay. Never really said what I wanted to say. And it's because of that overwhelm. I would always say that the work that you do with your colleague that's about to give the interview, ideally you want to be in the same room. You want to be face to face. If you can do it in half an hour, or maybe allow an hour, but you each spend some of that hour alone, working on some things separately. And then you come together and you talk it through and maybe do a little bit of practice. To me, that would be a really constructive 30 to 60 minutes. It's a lot better than you pulling together an enormous email with lots of links and lots of detail and reports and things to read. They've got to go into the interview with 2 or 3 key things that they want to get across. And they've got to have a real clear idea of what the journalist is doing and where this conversation is likely to go. And we always say in our training, we hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst. So if it goes off topic, if the journalist has found that thing from the board meeting minutes and it comes up, or they even spring a surprise on us. So although we took the brief and the journalist never mentioned, I don't know, talking about sustainability, and suddenly they throw out this sustainability question, hopefully that's come up in the environment scanning, and you've got that skill and you've got that practice, and you've worked with me and you know how to manage it. The other thing I would always say to communications professionals is any time you have that brief with the journalist and they tell you one thing, if they do throw something in that's unexpected, if you feel that you've been betrayed, that's a very strong word, but if you feel they've been cheeky or betrayed or however severe you consider it, make sure you come back at them. Don't just let that go. Now, I'm not suggesting that you tear strips off them and say you'll never deal with them again, but just say something like, it would have been nice if you'd let me know about that question earlier on. Or, I noticed you threw that one in, that's a little bit cheeky. I'd rather if you didn't do that again. And what you're doing there is you're teaching the journalist that you're someone that cares about these things. You're somebody that's on it, and that they'll slowly learn that it's worth keeping in your good books. That you're not somebody that just says, oh, glad that's over, see you later, bye-bye. You're on it and you care about that detail. And gently what will happen, hopefully sometimes a little stern, sometimes all in good humour, they'll value that relationship. They'll see that is a two-way relationship where they have to comply with certain expectations you have. And if they do that, then here's what they'll get from you and your organisation. We're two professionals, equal levels of power, working together in the name of democracy, information, serving the public, serving the audience. That's what really matters. And even if it's a hostile interview, even if it's a difficult situation, the journalist still values that good relationship with the communications professional. So take briefs, don't overwhelm your internal spokespeople, and come back at a journalist if they've been a little bit mischievous. They don't mean any harm by it. They see it as their job, but it's better if they learn to keep in with you and don't betray you, don't go behind your back. Listen, thanks very much for listening. We're really doing a lot of media training and presentation skills training at the moment, and also podcast and video production. If you want to know more about what Comsteria can do for you, wherever you are listening to this in the world, you can join our powerful communication revolution. We're going to be doing some free training online. We've got a book coming out soon as well. You'll find us now growing our TikTok channel and our YouTube. So come and take part in our powerful communication revolution at comsteria.co.uk.